All right, everybody. Welcome to my first episode of Rants and Random Thoughts. You have to bear with me because I'm not the greatest orator in the world, but I've created this video series for myself to get things off my chest and to just talk about things that I see during the week or the couple of weeks or the months or whatever it'll be between the time I upload each video. So basically, I do this so I have a way to get it off my chest where I don't post it on my Facebook profiles. So whether or not people choose to listen, that's fine. It's up to them. But um, I'm just going to start it off. I'm not trying to go back too far. I'm just going with whatever has happened within the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to start it off by saying that these are my opinions. I'm going to be very open about it. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to try to not name anybody because I will, of course, talk about stuff that's happened to me, but I'll talk about other things as well. Um, I'm going to start off by saying I'm not going to sit here and say, of course, I have to leave notes because I have a bad memory. Um, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, this isn't for the easily offended and all that crap." And we're going to make the first topic trigger warnings because I've recently encountered a couple of conversations with different people regarding trigger warnings and how people feel about them. Well, like I said, I speak my mind. People who know me know I say what I feel. I don't sugarcoat things. Um, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you the show isn't for the easily offended or all that crap, or because honestly, I feel like if you have to say it's not for the easily offended, that just sounds like pretentious edgelord bull crap to me. Being offended is okay. All being offended means is that you actually care about something. If something offends you, that means you have passion about whatever that person is talking about. That means you give a shit, and more people in the world should give a shit about things. Doesn't make you a bad person to be offended by something. And of course, being a bad person, that's subjective anyway. But to me, in my opinion, it really depends on how you react, how you allow that offense to, that feeling of being offended manifest. If you want to have a sit down with somebody and talk to them about it and have a rational conversation, that's fine. If you just want to be offended and move on, that's fine. I think if you go out trying to slander the person and cost them their job and their livelihood, then you're a piece of crap. But that's just, I mean, but it all depends on that. And when it comes down to trigger warnings, I just want to say, like, I don't, for a long time, usually if I saw a book had a trigger warning, I would just push it aside and I wouldn't read it. But I've tried to be more open minded about that because that's really kind of, I feel like it's kind of silly. I could be missing out on a good story. But some people do, okay, like when it comes to trigger warnings, I think if you treat them like, um, the rating systems for films and television, and you're just very vague about it, like this rating got a D for domestic violence or L for language. I mean, that's pretty vague, right? You're not giving away any plot points. Um, but I do think like trigger warnings are being overused to the point nowadays where it's just like people are just trying to seem edgy. I think trigger warnings are there for stuff that's actually triggering and stuff that triggers traumatic feelings. Like if someone's been sexually assaulted, well, thinking about or hearing about sexual assault may really trigger some kind of post-traumatic stress thing. I know I was told by my therapist usually post-traumatic stress disorder refers to people who have been near death experience. And I imagine someone if they were sexually assaulted enough, they were, you know, or not even enough. That sounds bad. If someone was sexually assaulted, they very much could have felt like their life was on the line. And sorry if I fidget a lot. I've got a lot of back issues and neck issues, and it's real comfortable for me, or real uncomfortable for me to sit a certain way for long periods of time. So I move around a lot. But so in reading a book, if you're someone who's experienced that, or experienced something traumatizing, truly traumatizing that messed you up mentally, you might want to know something like that exists in a book, show, or movie before you, decide to enjoy it or not. But what trigger warnings aren't for are for, like, I don't know, trigger warnings that say, oh, if you're sensitive or you're a bitch, don't read this book, blah blah blah. To me, that's I don't know. It's funny. It is funny when I see people do that, but also at the end of the day, it's just them trying to gain attention, which is really not a bad thing to do when you're marketing. Um, but I don't really think people should use it for that. Although I don't know, marketing's difficult, so I guess you can find a way. Hell, films used to do it. What was it? Make Them Die Slowly. They would put banned in 100 million countries or whatever it was on there because they know people are going to be attracted to that. But I don't know. I think setting off by insulting your potential readers right off the bat, though, is kind of a bad move. But again, that's kind of how I feel about trigger warnings. I really think they should be better used because people are going to just ignore them. But and honestly, if you're a person sitting down to read something called extreme horror and you're expecting a sweet resolution between strawberry shortcake and the purple pie man, as opposed to the purple pie man throwing her down on a pile of leaves and fucking her with a spiked dildo, then you're probably looking at the wrong. You're probably viewing it through a different lens. I mean, extreme horror. It says it in the name, right? But that gets to serious shit, right? So I'm going to talk about something else. Beyonce's country song called, was it Texas Hold'em? I do have an opinion on that. And it's not a very deep one, but my opinion is I listened to it and it wasn't that bad. It was kind of catchy. I don't really think it sounds like country, but what mainstream country crap has sounded like country since the 9/11 attacks? Hardly any of it. It's all been bullshit. And quite frankly, I would rather listen to Beyonce's Texas Hold'em than listen to anything by Toby Keith or that guy who was on The Apprentice, that Donald Trump show, who ended up becoming a country singer, or the guys who married Nicole Kidman and Gwen Stefani. And I don't know who these guys are. And who Dirks Bentley. Like, I've heard songs over the years, and I'm assuming it's from these people. And the guy who fucks his tractor or whatever. I don't know. It's to me, that's just not my thing. I don't like any of it. Country music to me is Hank Williams, his grandson Hank Williams III, who also does a lot of metal. Ronnie Millsap, George Strait, Alan Jackson, Marty Robbins, even though he kind of towed the line between Western and country, but Western music is where country came from, is part of it, that and Appalachian music. That's just, I don't know, to me, that's country, but it evolves or de-evolves, however you want to look at it. But at the end of the day, I would still rather listen to Beyonce's new song. But I see a lot of people trying to throw out the race card when someone says they don't like it. And just because you don't like something made by, it was because if you're white and you don't like something made by someone who's a different race, doesn't make you racist. I think that's silly. People are using that a lot. Like, I've been called racist because I hate rap music. And I always tell people I hate rap music. I think it's shit. I think it's talentless garbage. That's just my opinion. More power to anyone else who enjoys it. But I like bluegrass music, and people think that's just stupid hillbilly shit that all sounds the same. But it's all about what you have an ear for. But at the same time, you can't call someone racist. Like, I always counter that with, well, my least favorite rapper of all time is Eminem. So how does that? and and I love blues music. I think the original blues music is some of the best music ever, and that's all mostly black guys. And then jazz, my favorite jazz artists like Charles Mingus and Duke Ellington. I mean, so if people just say stupid shit. But what does seem racist is when a country music station flat out refuses to play the song, which I think is ridiculous. Why would you do that if it's going to bring you more listeners? That is definitely a red flag. I'm going to drink this, and hopefully it doesn't become my thumbnail like it did on my other video. Here you go, L81 company. I'll advertise your stuff. Give me free drinks. They're local to Kentucky, by the way. I look like I got like this eye right here goes in a different direction. All right, so I'm going to segue this discussion into Taylor Swift, and I'm only going to speak briefly of it. Um, people are getting really pissed off about seeing her in their feed, and I really don't understand why. I guess if it pisses you off, it pisses you off, right? But here's how I feel about Taylor Swift. I'm not a fan of her. I mean, I don't like her music. I've only heard one song, I think, actually, and that's "Shake It Off." And I mean, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's not the worst song I've ever heard, especially compared to a lot of the shit that's on the radio now. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are misconstruing it. Um, there's always a celebrity who gets popular and ends up on TV and on feeds a lot. I think the stupidest thing are the people who are making it a gender, a sex issue. Like they're just afraid of a powerful woman. And I find that funny because most of the complaints I see about Taylor Swift are coming from women. So I don't know, um, but that's whatever. I don't really think a lot of guys care that she's a woman. I think if you put Harry Styles on there, they'd be just as pissed off. Um, it's just because people feel like, and I'm not saying I agree, people feel like she's just a pop singer and she's not that important. Um, and that so a lot of people feel like she's not even that talented, which again, those aren't my words because as far as I know, she plays instruments, she sings okay, and she writes some of her songs. And she has a hand in writing her songs, so that already puts her ahead. The fact that she plays instruments already puts her ahead of a lot of modern popular people in music. And that's what I was going to say about Beyonce's new song, Texas Hold'em. I was looking at her album and looking at the personnel involved. My God, she's finally working with actual musicians after 20 something years. So I'm happy with that. Usually she just works with people who run machines. That's why I don't like her music. Most of it sounds like crap. Only very few people only very few artists who ran machines mostly have I ever liked. I like some Depeche Mode songs, and I like some. I like the was it Dare by the Human League, that album. But for the most part, I like the sounds of actual musical instruments. Um, but anyway, enough of that. I think there's worse things to talk about that show up on people's feeds. At least for me, like people crying about politicians all the time. I'm tired of hearing about whether you hate Joe Biden or you hate Donald Trump. I mean, of course, it's your Facebook, right? It's your right, and I don't bitch and complain about that. I'll just scroll past it. If someone's blowing up their feed all the time about how much they hate Donald Trump or Joe Biden, I usually just end up unfriending them anyway because I don't care about that shit. I don't care. My opinion of Donald Trump and Joe Biden is that fuck them both. Neither one of them care about us. They don't care about our struggles. People like to think that Joe Biden does, but he doesn't. Um, his actions in office haven't proven him to be for the people. It's just proven to be for his people. So, and I'm not saying Donald Trump is any differently. I didn't vote for Trump, you know, um, and I probably won't again. But I'm not going to vote for Biden either. Like it's just who cares? Um, these people don't give a shit about you. They only care about your vote, and they don't give a shit about me. They only care about my vote. So that's all. That's all. It's all a game to them. For Donald Trump, it's just about being empowered because he wants to do it. And for Joe Biden, it's his career. He's a career politician. He doesn't. He never wanted to get a real job, I guess. So he had to be a politician. And that's how I feel about a lot of them. And it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. And speaking of that, let's talk about the dumb shit people say during election year. Election year is always a year that I call my friends list. And that's because I don't care what people's opinions are. If you're going to go on there and you're going to say, this is why you should vote for Joe Biden, and you can point out improvements he made, and you can point out why he's a good candidate, why what his policies are supposedly are. Or if you want people to vote for Trump and you can go out there and say, this is why you should vote for Trump. Here's what he did for the country. Here's what I think he'll do for the country. Here's his opinions. I don't care about that. Fine. You're being rational. Anybody who has a problem with that, anybody who thinks that makes you a bad person is stupid. Um, and here's my opinion, and that's what I'm getting to. The only people that bother me are the people who say really dumb shit during election years, like, "Oh, if you vote for X, you're whoever that is, you're a piece of shit." That's the number one I always hear. I hear that one all the time. So those people get unfriended. The people who say, if you're going to vote for so and so, then just unfriend me now. It doesn't matter who they're talking about. They could be talking about the candidate that I absolutely hate, if they put that kind of ultimatum out there, I'm just going to unfriend them because I think that's really childish, and I don't want to associate with people who have that mindset. Um, because all right, so people are like, well, if you vote, the arguments that I've heard, mostly, with Biden, people say it's because he's too old to be in office, which I don't think your age necessarily matters. It's how well you're doing, and he's obviously not all there. But people are like, well, he's a communist. Well, he's never done anything to show that. I think he's actually the opposite. I think he's a corporatist, just like most of the other politicians. But for people pull out all these things about Trump being racist and being this and that and a white supremacist, which I don't. Every time I ask somebody for the proof, they can never show it to me, and that's the reason why a lot of other people who support him don't believe you guys. And even though I don't support Trump, I'm a logical person. I'm on the side of logic, and I don't think that someone who votes for Trump is inherently racist or a bigot or anything like that. They don't believe he is, and that's why, because no one's been able to prove it, and that's why they're voting for him. So I think people who just automatically say shit like that, I don't have any use for them. I don't have use for people who are like, well, if you vote for Joe Biden, then you're a communist. Delete. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're a racist. Delete. I don't have time for that stupid shit. That's childish, dumb shit that accomplishes absolutely nothing except making you look like an asshole, and that's it. And I don't care about people like that. They're not worth my time. You can vote for whoever you want, basically. And that's another point that really pisses me off is all these people that say if you don't vote, you don't have the right to bitch. Well, no, that's not true. That's a very blockheaded thing to say, because the actual truth is, if you don't like any of the candidates, you do have a right to bitch. If you don't like Donald Trump or you don't like Joe Biden, you have the right to bitch. You have the right to say, I'm sick of only those two mafia criminal organizations, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, always having a lockdown on the candidacy. You do have a right to bitch, and you don't have to go vote for them, because if you think they're both going to fuck up the country, why do you want either one of them in there? It's inevitable one of them is going to be in there, but you don't have to participate in the fucking charade that is our every 4-year election process. Um, and I'm not one of those people who say the election was rigged or anything like that, because I don't care. I don't like Joe Biden. I don't like Donald Trump. So I don't give a shit one way or the other. I don't. But I'm just saying. And I don't think you have to vote. It's not your civic duty to vote. It's not. Now, if you have a candidate you think is good and you don't go out and vote for him, then you don't have a reason to bitch. You sound like an idiot. I think if you don't want to participate in being on the side of an asshole you don't like just because you think the other person's a bigger asshole, you don't have to. And that's actually, it's not an obligation to vote, because that's the whole fucking point of freedom, is that you don't have to go out and vote. We're not a fucking authoritarian, and they say, and honestly, people who don't want to vote, who don't care enough about politics to vote, I mean, do we really want them voting anyway? I mean, seriously. Well, so people are going to be like, well, Donald Trump's on TV. I'm going to vote for him. So people would be like, well, Joe Biden just seems like a senile old man who's a danger to the country. I don't want to vote for him. People who don't really know the issues, why would you want them out voting anyway? Someone doesn't want to vote, I don't want them voting. And that comes down to the people. Another thing I think is stupid is when they say voting third party is a wasted vote. That is the most superficial, unthought out argument, lazy minded argument I've ever heard, and I always unfriend people for that. Because if you truly want change, but you keep voting for the same guys over and over from the same parties that do the same shit that accomplish nothing over and over, you're really not voting for change. You should vote third party if you find a candidate and consider it, because, gee, if everybody voted for third party candidates, a third party candidate would win, wouldn't they? So it's basic logic. Okay. Um, Now, I'm not saying you should have to go out and vote third party. If you don't want to, fuck them, don't vote for them. But um, voting third party isn't a wasted vote. A wasted vote is wanting change and not voting for change. Like I've always said, like with the Democratic candidacy in 2020, I saw a lot of people whining about people who voted third party, and I'm like, well, you all, a lot of Democratic voters, and I'm like, well, you all harp and complain that you want change, but you went out and voted for the guy who's least likely to change anything in the Democratic primaries. The only guy who would that ran who would have been worse would have been Bloomberg, and he dropped out. Like, I used to really like Bernie Sanders, but there's been a lot of things he said and done since that I don't care for. I liked Elizabeth Warren until she jumped on the bandwagon of ignoring classism. Same thing with AOC, but she didn't run. Um, Tulsi Gabbard, I liked a lot of her policies. I'm not a real big fan of some of her social policies, but I think any of them would have been better than Joe Biden. I could have taken a shit on the podium and stuck a flag in it with a smiley face on it, and it probably would have been a better choice than Joe Biden for the Democratic presidency or candidacy. And people are always like, "Well, he had the best chance of beating Donald Trump." Is that really where we're at as a company, or as a company? Well, company is right. That's all America is. As a country, is that we're just voting for the guy who's most likely to win? I mean, come on, guys. It's like George Carlin said 40 years ago or 30 years ago or something. Everybody complains about these politicians, but they're not, manufactured somewhere. They come from the people, and that's why they suck, because the populace sucks. So if you want change, vote for it. If you don't vote for change, quit your bitching and leave other people alone for how they choose to approach the whole voting thing. Um, and speaking of that kind of stuff, I'm really disappointed. If you live in the Louisville area, you're well aware of the Highlands, right? It's essentially an area in downtown Louisville, just east of the downtown proper. Now, it's not East Louisville. It's not what they call the East End, where all the rich people live, but it's the east side of downtown. It's over. Well, the Highlands is a neighborhood. That's by the Phoenix Hill neighborhood. It's around Baxter Avenue and Bardstown Road, um, close to Smoketown and Butchertown. And it used to be a really liberal area. And by that, I mean, it means it used to, because most people see Kentucky and they think of a red state, and it is. But Louisville has always been a little more liberal in my lifetime. I don't know about before I was born. Um, just like our last mayor was a Democrat, even though he was corrupt and he did a lot of things he shouldn't have, and he didn't do anything to help. The current mayor is a Democrat, and he was the guy who started the 21C Hotel out here. He's one of them. I think him and another guy bought OVW Wrestling out from Danny Davis, or at least they bought a part of it. And he's a Democrat. He went to Harvard Law and all that. But here you go. I look around, and Al Sharpton made a comment several years ago about these. I called them well-to-do liberals. They might as well be Republicans. He called them limousine liberals, and he's right, because they don't really address issues that matter, that are pressing. Not, I don't want to say that matter, because they do matter, but they don't address the most pressing issues. And what's this? They don't address the most pressing issues, and that is classism and class warfare and all that. And I'm not saying that in a Karl Marxist sort of way, because I support capitalism. I think it's a good economic structure, but I don't think it needs to encompass everything. And people who aren't very intelligent about that, or I shouldn't say intelligence, educated about that subject, I hear that and automatically say I'm talking about communism and socialism, and I'm not. That's not what it is at all. If you think that, you need to go study a little harder. And I'm not even an expert on it, and I know that's bullshit. But my problem is, like the Highlands, they're like they hide behind political liberalism. There's political liberalism, which means you just say all the fancy things that make liberal politicians happy, and rich liberals happy, but you don't address the issue, and that is that it's harder to survive in this country than it used to be. Now, I'm really disappointed in the Highlands, because they've given way. They used to be really known for their small shops and their opening attitude towards the regular guy. And here lately, I've noticed that they have built really expensive lofts down there. They have now put parking meters all over the roads, and they have taken their benches and put armrests in the middle of them, so the homeless can't sleep on them. That's really disappointing, folks. We need to do better, because the only true anti-homeless structures that work are homeless shelters and affordable housing. So I think that's really sad, and that's comes down to how I view liberals now. They don't really care about the things that matter. The modern liberal. I think there's still real liberals out there who realize what the problems are, but you got these people who think, oh well, you're a straight white male. You don't know about what it's like to be a real liberal. No, that don't have anything to do with being liberal. Your race and your sex has nothing to do with liberalism. So anybody who thinks that's part of the problem, in my opinion, and that's other people I don't associate with. um, so that I think that's, yeah. Oh, that guy, he also has a lot to do with the renovations of Whiskey Row, if you're familiar with that. But I'm talking about people with illogical opinions. um, I want to talk about some kind of drama that went on recently. I'm not going to name anybody, but I had a friend who I eventually figured out wasn't a friend during the course of a bunch of drama. And said person was basically showing me screenshots of what people were saying. If you're familiar with there's a little section of the indie horror community I call them the Facebook horror author community, because that's really all they do is they write books, they put them on Amazon, and then they just market them to their friends on Facebook. And it's basically a circle of people patting each other on the back, which is fine if that makes them happy. But the problem with this circle is if you want to expand beyond that, they get mad and they have a tendency to cause a lot of drama. And people like me who don't go run and hide in the shadows, who stand up to them and can actually lay out an entire post that they can't they can't actually comprehend and read, about how this is what I actually said, here's my proof, and here's what you said, here's my proof. They will just ignore all that and continue on like I don't know. Cognitive dissonance, is that the thing? I don't think that's it. That's not really it. They just ignore facts and they just want to fight. And that's what I've been dealing with. So one person who was supposed to be my friend, turns out they're actually part of that crowd. Recently, because I'm not perfect, I don't I hold on to things because these people have held on to drama with me for a year, and they still talking about me and talking shit about me, but I'm supposed to just sit here and take it. And sadly, this person who supposedly was my friend thinks that way too. Recently, I brought up something on a post that I shouldn't have, that was old, that popped up on my feed, about someone who I was very supportive of, her press and her work, and I shared a bunch of stuff and tried to get her involved in something, and she just decided to run with the crowd and unfriend me and everything. And that's kind of annoying. It's someone who doesn't really know me unfriends me, whatever. When someone I've been supportive to and tried to help unfriends me, I think, what a piece of shit. But it shows, it's no reason to get mad. It just shows them that they're not the type of person I need in my life. So good riddance to them. But I made a comment on that, and this person, this supposed friend of mine, went off on me. And that's fine if she went off on me, and that's whatever. I already knew all the stuff she said. She was harboring those thoughts in her head. I could tell by her behavior that she wasn't trustworthy, so I distanced myself from her anyway. But the only thing that bothered me about what she said is she really covered up the truth. She lied through omission. She mentioned one person who I had said stabbed me in the back, and it was a person who I'd actually tried to help, someone who I had introduced to people, someone who I was friends with, got on a podcast, was invited to a podcast that I started with somebody. And this person went around and kind of ended up making up shit about me and kind of painting a picture that I was starting drama with people who are actually starting drama with me. And she did it because she wants to be their friends, because she thinks these people are somebody, and that's what she thinks. Good for her. But I had mentioned to my friend that I noticed when the person had started distancing me was because of their refusal of my help. But then this person mentioned that on the post, and I'm vaguing this because I don't actually want to call these people out. They know who they are, and anyone who's involved knows who they are. But what really happened was, the reason I said this person stabbed me in the back was because the other person who went off on me on my post, had actually shown me screenshots of the other woman talking to her in a DM and saying something to the effect of, Jacob starts a lot of shit. And she was fishing to this woman to get her to talk about me. And this woman had shown me that screenshot, and that's why I said that person was stabbing me in the back. But they tried to make it sound like publicly, in case any of these people they want to impress saw it, that, oh, I was only saying that because this person refused my help. No, I'm saying it, lady, because you showed me screenshots of her fishing for you to talk about me. I'm willing to bet if you showed me the rest of that conversation, you probably said a few things about me. This person also, when I'd said many times, I don't care what these people are saying, I'm trying to let it go, in the middle of a group chat, showed me posts about two of the people who had started the drama, who had, I don't want to say started, they rekindled the drama, posted about me on their walls saying, I'm not friends with this person anymore. For out of the blue. They just wanted to start talking about me, is all they wanted to do. And this same individual, this person who was supposed to be my friend, who made it sound like I can't let things go, is the one who showed me the screenshots. He was like, oh, look, these people are talking about you. And I said, I really don't care what they think. And I saw, and it was good because I was like, well, thanks, because now I know who to block and unfriend. And then she comes back with, oh, she goes, there's more. Do you want me to show it, or will it upset you? And I was like, well, show it to me. I really don't care. And she showed it to me. She's like, okay, I'll just block all those people. Well, then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, red flag. She knew I was trying to let the stuff go, and I didn't care, but she's showing me all this crap. And I'd even made a video saying, don't show me this crap. And I ended up making a video saying, look, I'm pulling back from people because if you know people are spreading lies about me and you're seeing it and you're willing to show me the screenshots, but you're not willing to speak up on my behalf, you're not actually my friend. Don't call me your friend. Back off me. So I backed away. And the video was essentially about this woman, but it was also about a few other people. And so, eventually it all came to light that I was correct about her. But it's just illogical that someone has to lie about somebody, especially in a community of people who don't like me anyway, because I am who I am, because I don't take their shit. So you don't have to lie to those people to get them to dislike. Hell, one guy posted something about I make him paranoid to even accept friend requests. I mean, this is how dramatic and attention seeking these people are. I mean, you don't have to lie, but I pretty much figured out how this lady is anyway, and that's why I don't. That's why I backed away from her in the beginning, and I've since blocked her from everything, including this channel, because I don't want to hear her shit. Let's see. Do I have anything to segue into that? No, I don't think I do. Oh, I think same woman. It may not have been her. I'm not 100% sure. Recently made a comment saying people hate traits in others because they're traits they see in themselves and they don't like. And I'm pretty sure that was a gaslighting comment, because I really think that's dumb. I don't think that's correct at all. Because I think about the traits I see in other people that I don't like. One of them is lying, and we're all liars. Like, everybody lies about something, but I mean, lying to actually get people hurt and in trouble. I don't do that. I tell the truth. I tell the truth that I remember, and I'm not fucking perfect. I might remember something wrong. But if someone can prove to me that I'm wrong, I'll fucking say I'm wrong. I'll be like, oh shit, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. There's a guy I recently got mad at, and I blocked him from my group, and I blocked him, and I unfriended him, and I posted something about him. And you know what he did? He fucking came to me. He sent me a message, wanted to talk to me, and yeah, we cussed each other out a little bit when we talked on the phone, but he told me what was up, and I listened to him, and he listened to me, and eventually I said, you know what, dude, you're right. I'm sorry. I should have done that. I should have talked to you first. Because he has a track record of not being an asshole. He has a track record of being an upfront person, despite being friends with all those people. So I said, you know what, dude, you're right, and I'm going to take that down, my post about you, because I was wrong to put that up, and he and I are still friends as far as I know. I can only talk about it from my end. I don't know how he truly feels about me, but he's never given me any reason to make me think that he has anything against me, and he's still my friend regardless. Um, and that's the thing. I'm not going to lie about you to get people to not like you, because I don't really give a shit if people like you or not. And I'm not going to ask you to choose between me and someone else. I'll make that choice for you because I have my criteria for people who I want in my life. I don't try to put my criteria on other people. If I don't want you in my life, I'm not going to ask you to change. I'm just going to cut it out, because who am I to ask someone to change themselves for me? Nope. You don't like the situation, you get out of it. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. Oh, and other traits I was going to say, I don't like illogical behavior. I don't see that in myself. I don't like backstabbing. I don't see that in myself. So I think that person made that comment because they were trying to gaslight someone, probably me. But I mean, I know it sounds paranoid, but I mean, I got all the evidences there that these fucking people have nothing to do but talk about me for some reason. I don't even know why, because I'm nobody like them. I'm just like them. I'm nobody. I'm nobody special. I think they just unite in misery. That's what they do. And they love talking about people. And we're going to get onto that subject now because I'm going to talk about AI and the controversies of AI. And the only reason I'm going to talk about it is because some little twerp tried to start shit when I wasn't even talking to him. Someone posted about AI. How do people feel about AI in art? And my opinion is, and basically this is what was said during the entire sub thread between me and this clown, is that what it boils down to is you got cover artists out there who charge $500, $700,000, even 300 steep for their artwork. And when you're dealing with people, companies, publishers, big publishers who have that kind of money, that's a whole different story. And if they want to charge that, that's their right. They should have the right to charge that, right? I'm not disrespecting their art, but you don't see writers, when it takes a hell of a lot longer to write a book than it does to make a piece of art. You don't see writers charging $300 for their book, do you? No, they don't. You know why? Because no one's going to buy it, right? And that's the thing to me. Like, you got poor people who don't have that kind of money, who want to be authors. They're not going to pay it. And of course, they're going to go with a software program that can help them create a cover. And that's basically what I said. I said it's logical economics because it is, because it's logical and it's an economic issue. And that phrase really made this kid mad. And I guess because the word logic probably feels like a screwdriver in his brain because it's something he can't wrap his head around. My point is, not at Nightmare Press, right? Every book I've ever published and every book I published personally, which has mostly been with Nightmare Press, has been created by an artist, a human being, right? I'm not going to sit there and take the time with an AI program for one to do that. And I would rather human beings do our artwork. But these people in the horror community say, I like to play devil's advocate, which I don't. I don't even know what that really means. I know what it's supposed to mean, but I don't play devil's advocate. I look at all sides. That's called logic. I know they have a hard time with logic, but I know there's a world that exists beyond my spectrum of existence, and I don't have a lot of money either. And I know there's people who have even less than I do. And especially when I started Nightmare Press, I had fairly decent funding for that saved up and a good budget. Just shit went south. And that was stuff beyond my control. It wasn't really mismanagement and just all other kinds of crap. But I know that some people, they may not have $300 sitting around to pay somebody. Most people don't. I had a guy do a cover for me for one of my books, and he said normally he charges $800 for it. And the cover wasn't even that good. And I'm like, I didn't say that, but I'm like, so I ended up paying him like 200 something. And I'm like, oh, dude, I would never pay you $800 to do a cover because your cover is not going to generate $800 worth of revenue for me. And that's the thing. Like, so naturally, we're going to go with people who are on Fiverr or people we can find who can do better, cheaper work. And that's just economics. And that's not cutting people out. It's business, man. And if you don't understand how to do business, then maybe you should get out of business. And I don't want to use AI. I want to use people. But this kid, he was telling me, you're taking food out of artists' mouths doing that. I said, no, dude, you're not listening to me. You're telling me basically what you're saying is an author who can't, whose dream is to publish their book, should just put their dream on hold because they can't afford some exorbitant, outrageous $500 price for a book cover. When he could go, if he had $35, he could go to Fiverr and have somebody use stock photos and make the goddamn thing for him, and probably be a hell of a lot more difficult, or a lot less difficult to deal with. And who will actually do the entire wrap, and they're not just like, oh, $500 for the artwork. If you want me to do the layout, then it's another $300. I'm like, fuck that shit, dude. You can pay $40 on Fiverr and get somebody to do all that shit for you. So naturally, people who don't have a lot of money are going to go that route. And to tell an author that they shouldn't follow their dream because they can't help support someone else is a big no-no to me. That's elitism. It's gatekeeping, and it sounds like the talk of someone privileged. And I basically told the guy that because, well, it's true. And he went onto his wall, and somebody said, "Hey, is this guy referring to your conversation?" And I looked at it, I was like, and I looked at him and I was like, yeah, probably. He looks like the type of person who would lie, who would misrepresent everything. And he did. He made it sound like, and the people responded, and people who responded took it this way, and he didn't set them straight that I was saying it's okay to use AI just for the hell of it. And I didn't, but I said it's okay for poor people. You tell them poor people who can't, they shouldn't publish because they can't afford that. That's stupid. Just go fuck yourself. Get out of the fucking industry if you think publishing is only for people with a whole lot of money. That is classist. You can go jump off a cliff, dude. You should, head first. But fuck that guy. And that's what I'm talking about. All these little pussies and liars and people who just misconstrue everything. They're like little wimps. They're little wimpy people. They're cockroaches, and I end up blocking them because normally, because I've learned in the past, when you try to carry on a conversation with these assholes, they start flailing around and throwing all these ad hominem attacks. And it just makes me want to look them up and find out where they live and have a conversation with them there. And my mental health is bad enough. I don't need to deal with little bastards like that, little pieces of shit who like to start drama all the time. Fuck that guy. Fuck him and anybody who agrees with him. That's the way I feel. Because it's illogical, because I never said those things. He put words into my mouth, and somebody needs to put something in his mouth. But I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to move on to something that's not so important. People are also arguing that AI is theft. Well, if that can be proven that they actually violate copyright laws, then yes, I think those programs should be shut down. But every time I ask somebody, do you have proof? All they say is, well, somebody said so. And I'm like, dude, honestly, there's so many stock photos out there that are out there for use that you don't know that AI is stealing shit. And if they can, and they're like, well, if you can't afford to sue them, I said, if there's a whole bunch of people who are making a fucking $800, $700 to make goddamn covers, if they're actually finding work, and if they're not finding work, it's because they need to lower their goddamn prices. But if they're finding work and you get a whole bunch of them together, you can do this thing called a class action lawsuit, and people making that kind of money, people getting that kind of money out of authors who will never make it back off their work, should be able to fucking afford a lawyer. Class action lawsuit. The problem is, the reason it's not happening is because people are struggling to find proof that AI actually violates copyright laws. And I'm not saying they don't. I'm not defending AI. I'm simply saying that's where I was coming from anyway. And that's all the shit people threw at me because I said poor people should be allowed to publish. And if they have to use a software program that helps them create a cover, they should be allowed to. And anybody who judges them is an elitist dickhead. Because they are. Because I don't like elitism. I don't like finger wagging. I don't like the little shaming, the little shitty shaming. That's why I don't get along with that community, because they're a bunch of pussies who shame people, and they can never fess up when they're faced with an argument that crushes their flimsy little ideas. All they do is they turn to their wall where they have to bitch about everybody and misrepresent everything that was said so they can get their equally ignorant friends to fucking join them, to sharpen their pitchforks and fire up their torches and go and act like they're on some kind of crusade when really they're just losers on Facebook who need to find something to do with their lives. But I'm going to move on to talking about something else. Most of you know I'm a wrestling fan. If you follow me on Facebook, I want to talk about this lady that Tony Khan's hired from WWE. She was a soap opera writer and filmmaker, not film, soap opera showmaker, I guess, director, who's won Emmys for making that stuff. And I gotta tell you, man, I don't get it. Her name's Jennifer Pepperman, I think, and she'd been writing for WWE SmackDown, which is the worst show since 2017. Why'd he hire her? I mean, I don't know, because SmackDown's not done anything interesting in years. I mean, that's why they've relied on the Bloodline for 4 years, and they're boring as fuck. And that's why it took 9 years to get anybody to accept Roman Reigns as the top guy. It's not like he's really over. It's just kids who are used to seeing him grew up, brainwashing and thinking he's a top draw, and that he's actually good. So Tony Khan last year had started really going in. His show had really started going into all this stupid WWE-esque backstage bullshit, and I don't mind that stuff so much, but most wrestling companies don't do it well. I mean, even the Attitude Era, they didn't do it well very often, but they did it well occasionally, and when they did it well, it was really good, so it worked, and that's what we remember. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that character work is fine, and interviews should be kept to a couple of minutes. That's what used to work. That's what would still work. And trying to draw in casual fans is stupid. It's not something you can force. It's something that just accidentally happens. And for some reason, people got it in their minds that Vince McMahon was some genius at doing that. No, the dude got lucky twice. He got lucky with Hulk Hogan. He got lucky with Steve Austin. Hulk Hogan was already popular in AWA. It's just Vern Gagne was so old fashioned. He didn't put Hogan on that pedestal. Vince McMahon had just purchased this already established wrestling company from his daddy. For those of you who like to bitch about Tony Khan getting that money from his daddy, Vince was no different. And all the money he did have that he purchased it with, he got from his daddy by working for his daddy. So he's basically given this company. And that's when he brought in Hulk Hogan, who was already getting popular. Hulkamania already existed. It just he put him on the national level. Boom. That's just basic business. And that doesn't make you a genius. Everybody knows you lead with the best marketing tool, right? And then after Hogan left, the WWF almost fucking folded. I mean, they got so bad in 97, they were close to going out of business. Supposedly that was the big thing everybody was saying. But I mean, the ratings were down. They struggled filling arenas. They were holding Raw in the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is fine with me. I like small venues like that, but for people who pretend like WWF's always been this giant, that Hammerstein Ballroom only seats 1,000 people, maybe 1,100. Seats about as many as the fucking ECW arena. So he got real lucky with Steve Austin, who was already like approaching the peak level or mid or twilight age of his career. He was younger. He was early 30s. So no, he was in the peak era. And he accidentally got popular with the Stone Cold gimmick, which was him just acting like himself. And his popularity basically saved WWF. It wasn't anything smart Vince McMahon did. Because if it was Vince McMahon's genius, Steve Austin wouldn't have been waiting 3 years before he got popular, so whatever. So AEW wants to hire somebody in like that. I wish they wouldn't. I made a long ass post about what I like problems I think are with AEW, and the reason I like them better than WWE is because they seem like a company who actually gives a shit about wrestlers, the wrestling fans, and wrestling. But I don't think they're great by any stretch of the imagination. They put on a lot of good matches. I think regularly their matches are better than WWE's. But I mean, New Japan, CMLL, AAA, and Impact consistently put on better matches than either one of those two. Even NWA. Did I mention them? Sometimes they do too. All Japan. All kinds of places put on better matches than them regularly. Either one of those companies. But all right, so he started doing all that soap opera shit, and that's when his ratings started to go. He brought in CM Punk, and when everybody finally that wore off, everybody realized what a flop he is. Nobody really cared about him. So he started doing he started listening to guys like Punk and started doing all this this backstage nonsense, 30-minute promos. And the hardcore wrestling fans that he was appealing to got sick of that shit because they're like, we don't want another WWE. So they stopped buying tickets. They stopped coming to the shows. They stopped watching the shows. And they recently started getting better, although they're getting better ratings now, but they're still not getting higher ticket sales. But, shit takes a while when you fuck up to fix it. And now they're wanting but they stopped doing all that shit. They took the belt off the soap opera guy and put it on someone like Samoa Joe, who everybody respects. And don't get me wrong, MJF has all the tools in the world to be a humongous star because he's actually a good wrestler too, not just a big mouth. But they didn't focus on his wrestling ability. They just focused on his big mouth, which is the kind of shit WWE always did, like with The Rock. The Rock was a better wrestler than people give him credit for. He had flawless command of the ring. But all they worried about was all the dumb shit he said, like about strudels and monkey nipples and pie and just dumb shit that I don't know. I was 17 and I didn't even think was funny. I thought Steve Austin was funny. I liked him. He told the Undertaker, "You're talking about taking souls. Well, I'm going to take my soul of my boot and I'm going to stick it straight up your ass." I thought that's funny to me. But so yeah, I'm hoping that this works out. But honestly, I think Tony Khan should have signed Scott D'Amore from Impact. I mean, he had a perfect opportunity right there in front of him. They got rid of him, the guy who saved TNA from extinction, and they fired him. And Tony Khan hires some woman from WWE who made little to no impact. I mean, dude, seriously. I think if Triple H ends up having to resign because of the Vince incident, Tony Khan should try and hire him. But so yeah, that's kind of cool. But I guess. But yeah, lately I went through about a week or two. For those of you who don't know, I'm bipolar. That I 100% believe. I've been diagnosed as schizophrenic because of supposed hallucinations I have. I don't believe they're hallucinations, but whatever. I do have certain symptoms of that disease. But people have also thought I have autism, which it was explained to me by psychiatrists that autism and schizophrenia have a lot of similar symptoms. It's just that autistic people don't have hallucinations and delusions per se. I also have OCD, and that's supposedly something that a lot of people with schizophrenia have a higher rate of possibly having. So I struggled for about a week or two there. I was having real bad episodes. And if I talked to you in DMs and I said weird shit or acted out of line, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. It's not an excuse. I'm just gonna tell you I'm sorry. And if I did upset you, I didn't mean to, and I'm apologizing to you now. But when that mania, I'm just explaining the mania as a topic here, not as an excuse for having acted like a weirdo. A lot of times when I have those problems, I suffer from lack of sleep, and I don't have much of a filter anyway. My filter becomes almost non-existent. So it's like if you make me mad, I'm going to say something to you. If I get wound up, I'm going to say something stupid. I just have no control, and that's why I try to get away from people, and that's why I'm trying to do this so I can keep that shit out of my head. But again, that's not me making excuses. If you got mad at me over something I said, you probably had every right to, and I apologize to you for that. I'm just apologizing to you. I don't blame you for being mad at me. And if you don't want to accept my apology and move on, I mean move on from me. If that's what you want to do, I understand. No hard feelings. I want to talk about movies real quick, not being entitled to support. I'm tired of seeing these articles that are like, oh, this movie failed because this demographic didn't go see it. If you want a demographic to go see it, you research the fucking market and you appeal to that demographic. I think the big article that I was seeing is about how movies starring women or whatever have been down. If people haven't been making as many movies based around women, it's because they're out of ideas and no one's had any ideas for them. And I'm sure they'll come up with new ideas. I'm just saying, no one's thought about them, or they've had other ideas they wanted to use. Or B, maybe the movies didn't do well before. I mean, Barbie's the exception, right? And I'll tell you why Barbie did well. Because one, it's about what is possibly the most popular fucking toy in the history of the toy industry, besides maybe GI Joe, but I doubt it. I think Barbie's more famous than GI Joe. So yes, people are going to see it. It was a well marketed movie. They got Ryan Gosling, who women think are hot, and he's got these sexy abs and everything going on his kin, and he's got funny parts, and they show him in the previews. And Margot Robbie, who's like, I think just about every guy thinks she's a fucking goddess. So of course they're going to go see it, right? And they got a hot director. I don't mean physically. I don't know what Greta Gerwig even looks like, but I mean she's hot in the sense that she's made movies that people have been liking over the last several years. So they put marketing behind it. But at the end of the day, your movie. I think back to Elizabeth Banks years ago, who said that Charlie's Angels reboot failed because her Charlie's Angels reboot failed because men don't like movies with powerful women. She's stupid because that's a stupid statement, because if you just look at the history of film, you can see that's not true. Uh, Sarah Connor, for one, anything Charlize Theron does, guys always like watching her kick ass. Fifth Element was really popular. People like Mila Jovovich. Her movies made pretty decent money there for a while. The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis in it. She was powerful. People liked it. Oh, hell. How about the original Charlie's Angels? The television show was popular, and the fucking original movie was popular. The one with, what's her name? Oh, God damn it. Matt Dillon's old girlfriend. What's her name? She's actually more successful than Matt Dillon, but I can't remember it. Cameron Diaz. And Drew Barrymore too. The first one, I don't think the second one was popular, but I watched both, and the second one kind of sucked. But the first one was popular, and that's just stupid. That's an excuse. It's not because of men not wanting to go see the movie. It's just because you made a movie nobody wants to fucking see. A lot of people don't like Kristen Stewart for some reason. I have no problem with her. I think she's just fine. But the movie, even to me, I like strong movies with strong women in it, right? And I didn't even want to see the fucking movie. I thought it looked stupid. And I don't have a problem with Kirsten Stewart. I think she's fine. Um, or there was that movie with Sheldon. It came out, not Sheldon, um, Jim Parsons in it, the homosexual guys. And I saw that movie didn't do well, and people were blaming. They were saying, "Well, straight people don't want to go see movies about gay people." Well, yeah, most people don't. It's not that straight men don't want to see movies with homosexuals like they have a problem with it. Most men don't want to see romance films. It was a romance movie. That's why it didn't do well. And even straight women, even the women, they want to see movies with like some dude that looks like Jason Momoa, not fucking Jim Parsons. Nobody's attracted to Jim Parsons. I mean, I love Jim Parsons in The Big Bang Theory, but women don't go out to see him. He ain't fucking Jason Momoa or Chris Hemsworth. I mean, seriously, y'all got to think about that. Most of the popular romance films star either hot guys or Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock. I don't even know if they make this kind of movie. So no, it's not because people are like, it's not against anybody that people don't go see it. It's because they're not interested in it. And I'm tired of people acting like just because a movie's about something that's socially conscious that everybody should go see it. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm for everybody having equal rights, but if the movie looks boring to me, I'm not going to see it. I mean, I'll watch Brokeback Mountain because I liked Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal all the time, and I thought, well, this could be interesting. It looks cool. It's kind of like a western and everything. I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was all that great, but I thought it definitely had good points. The acting was fucking phenomenal, and the direction was pretty good too, especially for Ang Lee. I don't really like his work most of the time, outside of Crouching Tiger. But no, your movie's not entitled to support. That'd be like me, every book I put out saying, you all don't want to buy my book because I have schizophrenia. No, that's fucking stupid. No, if people don't buy my book, it's because I'm not reaching people who want to read it. I think that's just about it. I don't even want to get into this conversation about the friend zone and perspectives between men and women because this is already almost an hour long. Maybe I'll save it for the next one. I just want to talk about some wins. Nightmare Press is growing as far as followers. People are really interacting and liking, for being dormant for 4 years. Was it 4 years? 3 years? Something. It's doing pretty well. Since coming back, we've added like over 2,000 followers. The Nightmare Press fan group is only about 50 people, but that's just a fan group for the supporters. That's for them and the authors. The House of Indie Horror has done really well. Even despite all the drama that surrounded it for like a week, it's grown up over 600 people. I think at that time it was like 200, and people tried to sabotage it and put a stop to it. But luckily, what they don't know is my reach goes beyond their little Facebook friend circle. So we've added 400 plus people to that group, and we've gotten so many great submissions in the Nightmare Press submissions column. Really excited about this. We never even had. Even before the horror tree people decided that they were too good for us, we still didn't get half the quality submissions that we're getting now, and that tells me that I'm doing what I want, and I'm reaching with Nightmare Press beyond this Facebook crap into a realm of authors who are authors to write their work and enjoy their work and improve their work and sell their work and have their work written and published, instead of just people who want to talk to each other on Facebook. So I'm glad about that. The Nightmare Press Network, we're obviously still trying to grow. People are interested in getting anything on here, let me know. You can let me or Bobby Shupeck know. Bobby Shupeck would probably actually be better to contact because he's better with this technical shit than I am. Speaking of Bobby Shupeck being good with technical shit, he got our fucking website up finally. And I'm not saying finally against him. I'm saying it against me because I opened Nightmare Press in 2018 and never had a goddamn website. Part of the reason is because I had a really fucking slow computer then, and it pissed me off. And the internet was really slow where I live, so it pissed me off to even try. And that stuff is tedious to me, and just all the other personal shit. I was too busy or too whatever to build it. So Bobby built it, and he built it in the way I like. It's nothing fancy. It's just here's our shit, here's our books, here's what we're looking for. Looks good. Man, I think that's about it. And I'm glad I got all this stuff off my chest. And even if nobody abuse it, I don't care. It's cathartic for me. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel better. So I don't go talking about this shit on my Facebook. But yeah, maybe next time, whenever I do have another one, I might talk about perspectives between men and women about relationships and how I don't really feel like men or women are wrong to want what they want in life. And we just need to figure out how to come to terms on that. But anyway, man, I'm going to get off here. It's been an hour. I don't want to go over that. And I'm going to go get to work. So if anybody does watch, thanks for watching. If you don't watch, again, that's fine. I feel better now, so it's all good. All right. See y'all.